Greetings. If you've seen other videos in this playlist, you'll know that I usually don't talk, I just play. The whole idea behind creating the playlist and the videos within it is to keep me playing the EVI, and it forces me to come up with something interesting that's worth recording in video and audio. There's no real editing involved. It's all very spontaneous. I usually just go back and put a drum loop on the track and some bass lines or some extra synths, and that's pretty much it. But the previous video on this playlist contains some interesting gear and some interesting functions that can be performed with that gear. And I've heard from upwards, a lot of people, at least three, who have asked me what the heck is going on with these synths. So first of all, we're starting with the Oberheim Expander. Now, the Oberheim Expander is a really innovative piece of gear. It's 6-part multi-timbral, and it's got some interesting functions within. One of those functions is the multi-patch, where up to 6 different voices can control 6 totally different patches. So that's the multi-timbral part of it. And there's an interesting function within the multi-patch section. It's called the rotate function. So what I was doing on the previous video at first was just using the expander with the rotating function. I'll try to get a photo because these LEDs are probably blinking wildly on your screen right now. But there are different intervals set here for each one of the voices. The first 2 are fixed. Those notes, those intervals are always going to be present. The rotating part of it comes in with voice 3, 4, 5, and 6. Which are all tuned to different intervals below what would be my lead note, let's say. So the first 2 voices can be seen here. They light up. A small dot LED lights up whenever the voices are activated. And you may or may not be able to see on your screen, but the dot moves. The dot moves from left to right through the other voices. And that order never changes. So you get some interesting chords. You've got this fixed interval that's always heard, and then different bass notes, which create different harmonies. Only 3 notes, so sometimes the harmonies are not totally complete, but that gives them a really open sound. And you can really get into experimenting with that and changing the intervals and developing different rotating patterns on up to, I think, 50 patches. That's the multi-patch section, 50 sounds. And it's also really interesting to use different sounds in each voice. Just to keep it simple so it can be heard, the rotate function can be appreciated. I've just used one single patch for all 6 voices. It's interesting, now I just got back to step 1. I go back and play, and it'll pick up where it left off and go on to step 2. Now it'll pick up on step 3. Now it'll pick up on step 4. So in the first half of the previous video, I was just playing with the expander and this exact patch with the same rotate intervals. And then what I did was turned on a similar function on the NuEVI. So by pressing these two keys simultaneously, the light starts blinking, and that means that I've got another rotation sequence that's being sent out from the NuEVI to whatever synth I want. For example, we'll just kind of turn this down, and to my right is a Hydrasynth Explorer. All right, we just changed the camera angle here. This is the Hydrasynth Explorer, or part of it, and the expander's over here. In about the second half of the previous video, I used the expander, and it's doing its thing with the rotating intervals and so forth. And I also activated, as I said, the rotate function on the NuEVI, and this is part of the NuEVI because of the existence of the expander and the rotate function. Famous users of the expander: Alan Holdsworth, Joe Zawinul, and of course Michael Brecker with the EVI. That's where this really comes from, this manic pursuit of making the expander replicate somewhat the rotating functions that Michael Brecker so cleverly used. Check out a song of his called Original Rays, in which he uses this function to great effect in the intro of the song. So, getting back to our business here, got the chord function here. The expander's going to do its own rotating thing, and I'm going to send this chord information to the Hydrasynth Explorer and also to the expander. Pretty powerful stuff. What happens is I'm sending 3 notes out to any synth that I have connected or controlled by the NuEVI. The rotate function on the expander continues to work, but instead of just the fixed interval, 2 notes on the top and a changing single note bass line on the bottom, it's playing the fixed interval and 3 other voices at the same time with its own intervals programmed. The other part of the rotating function is what the NuEVI does, and those intervals are different. It was just kind of a happy accident that both the sequence in the NuEVI and the sequence in the expander were able to work and play well together. Let's look at what the notes are, what the intervals are, and what harmonies, or incomplete sometimes harmonies, are created. And the fact that this can be left up to chance, a lot of the things that happen. Because, for example, if you start the rotate function on the expander, you could put your controller down, go outside and have a cup of coffee, come back, pick it up again, and it would just pick up where it left off. So you might find some really weird harmonies or exciting possibilities when, for example, the expander's on step 1 of its cycle and the NuEVI's on step 2, let's say. Maybe you turned on your expander after you already started playing your NuEVI. So you're going to get a whole different combination of notes, and so on. If the NuEVI starts on step 3 or step 4, we'll take a look at some of those possibilities, note by note and chord by chord, and see what might happen. But there is quite a bit left to chance. But sometimes happy accidents occur, and you can get some really cool harmonies and some really cool sounds. So let's look at some notes. With the multi-patch M20, I have it set up in such a way that if I play third space C, for example, I'm going to get a fixed interval, a perfect fifth above that, and then I'm going to have these rotating bass notes. So we can infer from these 3-note voicings that the resulting harmonies are as follows: D7 sus, there's no fifth; A minor 7, there's no fifth. In any case, a fifth, if it's not diminished or altered and it's absent from the voicing, it doesn't have any significant bearing on the way the chord sounds. C in the first inversion, C over E, and then you have an F add 9, but there's no third. So again, very open voicings, open to interpretation. Are we going to think that this F add 9 would have a major third, a minor third? Anyway, and that would just keep cycling like that if I were to continue to play that third space C. Now we're going to look at the NuEVI rotator C. There are 3 rotator slots in the NuEVI. I wish there were more. There used to be only 1, but I did ask. I probably wasn't the only one who asked for more slots, and now it has 3, so that's pretty cool. When I play that same third space C, I still get a perfect fifth above, C, G, and then my bass notes, coincidentally, the first bass note on this rotator is also a D, just on, like on the expander. D, F, A, E, and so forth and so on. Resulting harmonies, D7, no fifth. Again, the fifth doesn't really do much if it's not diminished or augmented. F add 9, no third again. We've heard that before. A minor 7, no fifth. Heard that before. C over E. Heard that before. So that, they're not that far off, these 2 sequences. These are the rotating bass nines, the different note sequences, comparing the NuEVI with the expander. You can see again that D is repeated. That's the first note of both sequences. And if we put these together, we would have the following harmonies. Very similar to what we had in much of the other 2 separate sequences. D7 sus, F add 9, A minor 7, F add 9 over E. That's a really cool inversion of a major 7th chord, and it can sound dissonant to some ears, but I think it sounds really cool. So if we activate the rotating function on the NuEVI and play the expander with it, and as well as another synth, the expander plays these notes as it receives information from the rotating function of the NuEVI. It plays these combinations of bass notes in this order. It plays bass note 1, 2, 3, and then the next information it sees will change to 1, 2, 4, 1, 3, 4, 2, 3, 4, and so on and so on. So here we go. We got the harmonies now. Got an A minor 11th, F6 9, F major 13, and there's that major 7th chord in the third inversion, 7th in the bass. What happens if the expander is on step 2 of the sequence, of the 4-note sequence, and the rotator function of the new EVI is starting from step 1. Different harmonies resulting, more cluster sounding, closer voicings, F6-9, F major 13th without the third, F major 9, A minor 11th over E. That's with Expander starting on step 2, 3, 4, and then cycling back to 1. If we start on step 3, again without changing the order of the new EVI's rotating function, F major 13th, A major 7th, A minor 11th, D minor 11th over E. That's a pretty thick sound. And with the Expander starting on step 4 of its sequence, we get the following harmonies: F major 13, A minor 11, F6-9, F major 13 with E in the bass. Again, you just have to realize the actual lowest bass note is here, as played by the new EVI. It's not the lowest note on the bottom staff. It's in the second staff. So anyway, I hope that explains just a little bit about what's happening with the rotator function, both from the Expander and from the actual MIDI controller, the new EVI. Again, if we were to start the rotating sequence on the new EVI from a second or third or fourth step, again, we would be producing a whole different series of harmonies. Not dissimilar from what we've already seen, but again, there's a lot left to chance, and I confess I didn't even study the capability of these two sequences. I just turned them on and put them together, and I thought it sounded really cool, and it's a lot of fun. So thanks for watching. Hit like and subscribe, and take care.